So I want to tell you a little bit about canter departures and what you can do to avoid that the horse is going to pick up the wrong lead. And of course, you have to sort of picture for a moment the footfall of the horse in the canter. It means that when you give the aid, your inside leg goes forward and on, your outside leg is back already. You're sitting a tiny bit to the outside, and you're having your horse in somewhat of a, almost want to say a little bit of a crouching position, ideally, which is, of course, that's a big task to talk about right off the bat. But even in the most minimal way, just imagine that you're making your horse take up a little bit more weight up behind, and that is one of the main things for the horse to be able to strike off into the correct lead. And the correct lead, of course, has to do with the horse taking up most of the weight on the outside hind leg, and the inside pair of legs coming forward. So you don't want to sit on top of that pair of legs. And, in order for that to happen, ideally, especially in the beginning, the outside hind leg should be a little bit more underneath the horse's body. I don't know if that makes sense, but so that it can have more of a centered push-up feeling of all the weight that it has to manage, right? And so what you want to do is you want to help your horse to accomplish that by riding strategically, of course, with your seat and with your, aids to support all of that, but then also the timing as to when you're going to ask the horse for the up transition has a lot to do with whether or not they're taking the right lead. So ideally, one way of doing it is riding towards a turn, like a corner or a rail somewhere where you're going to be going onto a circle, and I'm going to show that to you in a moment here. That's the very beginning part. Always ride, if you're on the, let's say, 20-meter circle around X, start your canter depart just a few steps before E or before B, so that the actual impulse from your inside leg forward and on, which is the final signal after you orchestrate the rest of your body accordingly, is the final signal for the horse to say, yes, now I'm supposed to go and jump into the first canter stride from the trot or the walk, right? So always have a plan and a vision for what it should look like, even if you don't get it quite correctly every time, but that's one way. So on a circle, either ride towards E or towards B. In the corners of whatever your arena might look like, corners have that same effect that the horse has a little bit of a visual boundary. And at the same time, you have to bend them around your inside leg so that automatically the outside hind leg has a little bit more of an advantageous position when it goes into the up transition, and that inside pair of legs can come forward, right? So those are the two beginning ways of doing it. And then there is the leg yield. You come either down the quarter line back to the rail, or you can spiral out of the circle back to the 20-meter circle and ask for the canter departure. Again, if you do it at a 20-meter circle around X, at E or at B, just so that the lateral movements, where the horse is already sort of picking up more weight on one hind leg or another, of course corresponding to what happens in the front, but it's one of those situations where you're just setting up such a very perfect little moment for the horse to go and say, oh, here's where you want me. Here is where I need to go with that, And all the while you might have, acquainted yourself and your horse with the yielding to the inside principles, which is, of course, in the walk and in the trot, one of the prerequisites that you have mastered that. And then once you're in the canter, you help your horse, and that's always something to think about. It's not just about the right up transition, but it's also about what happens after that. And for the horse is a linear thinker. The horse connects all these dots, and it will think, okay, so this happens and that happens, and then I'll go into the canter, which for the horse is a flight mode initially and naturally, and it might get a little excited. But you are going to say, yes, we're going to go into, the canter, and maybe it's a little exciting, but I'm here for you, and I will support you so that you can move with me on top of you in the most balanced way possible. And that means, you have to engage, of course, with your core muscles. You have to, use your legs in the rhythm of the canter wave, but also you can help your horse by sometimes when they're having a hard time stabilizing themselves yet, by taking your inside hand and just gently leaving it right next to the pommel. So the horse can actually push off from behind, the energy moving through, over the top of the horse, through you, into the horse's mouth and back into your hand. And for some wonderful reason that I don't want to get into more detail, this helps the horse steady himself on a circle, right? So I'm going to just go ahead here and start and show you a little bit what I'm talking about. Always a lot to talk about in the beginning, but that's how these things work. So if you want to use the corners as a departure point for your canter up transitions, it's usually a really good idea to have familiarized your horse with a nice feeling for that, what that really means, not just a throwaway, but a really nice clean, like I'm bending him around my inside leg in the walk now, and then I'm going to do the same in the sitting trot. Just going to go into the corner, give with the outside, take with the inside. We're just in a very nice, smallish, measured sitting trot here, and I'm just putting him and myself on a rectangular shape here. I'm just using the letters to, create almost like a little bit of a square. And then as I'm getting towards the corner, I'm taking outside leg back, inside leg goes forward and on. And I'm in that moment of wrapping him around my inside leg in the corner, which then, of course, I'm going to keep continuing to wrap him. That is where the canter departure into the correct lead is a really wonderful possibility, right? So back to trot. I'm going to do it again in this next corner here. Outside leg goes back, little collection, inside leg as I'm doing the turn, right? And then I'm going to ride continuous, very nice straight lines and nice corners. And back to down to sitting trot. Continue, always use half halls so that you can, really dose everything. Here's the up transition again. Down the straight line, around the corner, straightening. After each corner, the horse needs to be straightened. That means your outside rein and outside leg need to help him understand what you want. I'm going to do it one more time here. So, a little bit smaller steps. And there's the up transition, right? So, good boy. Yeah, very nice. So, and back to sitting trot. And you do this a few times in each direction. And you will feel, hope now he's offering it. You will feel how, your good work and your horse's good work and diligence and paying attention to these corners will pay off. And you'll have much nicer, softer transitions into the correct lead. And, that's another way of doing all of this good stuff. Thank you. Good boy, Cooley.